Hi, this is Gil Ford of Fortress of Faith. You are about to hear a program that was pre-recorded last year.
Welcome to the Corner of Truth and Courage with Tom and Tyler. This week we will address a matter of utmost importance to America, the need for revival. Revival is a word that we hear used often. It is a word that we use and don't really understand the biblical definition. Our goal this week is to define biblical revival. Psalms 85 verse 6 says, "Wilt thou not revive us again?" There are times that we turn away from God, and He removes His hand of blessing from us. We know when God's power is not on us, and it's very evident that the moving of God is very limited in America. When we read in the Bible about the moving of God, it was powerful. It was life-changing. The Spirit of God moved on people and convicted them. Listen now as we dig into the subject.
Welcome to the Corner of Truth and Courage with Tom and Tyler. We are here again with you another week, and we are discussing revival this week. Last week we kind of talked about judgment and some of the things that will happen if we don't have revival in our country. But today specifically, we want to really get to the defining what is biblical revival. Revival is a word that we hear used often. We have revival meetings. We have prayer that God will revive our church, revive our hearts. But I feel like that's often a word that we use but maybe don't understand the biblical definition of. And so our goal this week is to use the Bible to define what biblical revival is. But before we do that, I want all of our listeners to know how old you are. Because you're getting old, right? And today is your birthday, and you are 72 today. Is that right?
72? Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just a guess.
No, I'm not as old as that, thankfully. I'm still a young pup, although I feel a little dizzy for all the trips around the sun I've had now. So I'm starting my 57th year. 57. So still young. Enjoying my youth, but I'm thankful for the years that God has given me and the ministry that I've been able to serve the Lord with these years. I started full-time, I was 21 in full-time ministry. I started on church staff at the age of 18.
Yeah.
And so, I've been in ministry for many, many years now, and I'm, just praise the Lord for it. I hope He gives me many more.
Yes, and we actually have a pastor locally there that we go to that has heard different cultural things they do for their birthday, where I think one of them they yanked your ear for every year you were, and then another one I think they kicked you in the shin or something like that. And then here in America we like to, give, is it swats or spankings or something? I don't remember what it is, but anyways, maybe we'll do one of those things for you there.
In England, we'd give the bumps. The bumps. They'd pick you up by your hands and feet there and lift you up and bump you down on the ground for how many years you are.
Yeah.
And in my school, where I grew up over there, they'd kick you in the rear end when they lifted you up. So.
Yeah, it's amazing any of us live past birthdays because it seems like they're all very violent, the things that they do there. I wonder, let me ask one last question, and then we're going to get to the serious stuff, okay? When you get beyond 50 and they have the candles on your cake, do you just use like a lighter and a blowtorch to light them all, or do you actually have to use a lighter one by one? Because that sounds like a lot of work.
I think it's worth investing in a fire extinguisher soon there, just in case. You never know. All right. Well, Tyler, seriously, this week I want to talk about a subject that's very needful to America, North America, our world. Oh, how we need revival.
Yeah.
Psalms 85, verse 6 says, "Wilt thou not revive us again?" And it's a good question, that the children of Israel are asking, God, will you not revive us again? And there are times that we turn away from God and we fail, we fall away, we sin, and God removes His hand of blessing upon us. And we notice it, we know it. We know when God's power is not on us, and it's very evident that the moving of God is very limited in many parts of America, in many churches. We are becoming impotent when we read the Bible of the moving of God, it was powerful. It was life-changing. The Spirit of God moved on people and convicted them. And I got to tell you, I have seen this through my years of ministry. There are times you could preach a sermon. God would just move on the congregation. And years later, you can preach that same message, and it's just like a dead duck. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's just empty. And you wonder, well, is there a problem with me? Is the problem? I mean, the message is the same. God is still the same. And I can honestly say, that there's no sin in the camp and things that would, keep God from using me as his vessel when I delivered these messages. But it doesn't have the same effect. And you wonder, wilt thou not revive us again? We read of great revivals in the past. And so I want to spend this week talking about what is real revival. I'm not talking about a revival that you plan a week, even throw up a tent and bring in an evangelist and have in powerful meetings. I mean, those meetings can be great, and you can leave those meetings really touched. And even some people may get saved in those meetings. Some people may rededicate their lives in those meetings. But that's not the kind of revival that we read of yesteryear. What I'm talking about are the great awakenings. And that's a hint. The kind of revival that I want to talk about is what I refer to as a biblical revival. And often when these movements of God falls upon a community, it is, the term that they often use is an awakening. And I think the best information that I have in the words of a man who experienced it, I'm going to read, not today, but we'll start into him maybe tomorrow. But I'm going to read Duncan Campbell's explanation of the awakening on Lewis Island. What an amazing revival. He went there to preach for 10 days. He was going to have a revival meeting. And the Spirit of God fell on them. And it actually started before he ever arrived on the island. We're going to break this story down because I think it's worth being familiar with, and I wish more people were. And when God moved, that revival lasted 3 years. He didn't leave that island for 3 years. And the revival swept from that parish to the next parish. It was up in the Hebrides Islands, just off to the coast of Scotland. And this happened in 1949, and it lasted for 3 years. And so we have, because it's so recent and fresh, and that moving of God, we have great information. Now, I was privileged, Tyler, you may not know this, but I met a middle-aged woman who was there. She was a part of the Lewis Island revival. She lived there.
Yeah.
She experienced it. She was already a believer. She was already saved. But she was able to testify and witness how God moved and how many people came to Christ and how many people repented, even Christians, were repenting of their sin and the experience that they had in that awakening. Then there are other stories we could refer to that are very similar to what happened on Lewis Island, but I like talking about that. Well, one, God has really challenged my heart with what happened there and has given me a burden and maybe a vision that would happen again. And I want to take you to Ephesians chapter 4, and I want to address maybe some of the faults that we're having in America, why we're not having revivals, because I think we're looking to the wrong people to bring it. Now, first, let me say, anytime God brought revival first to Israel, you look at the old biblical examples, oftentimes when they fell in sin, God would raise up a preacher. We would usually call him a prophet. What does a prophet do? He warns. We're so caught up in the act that prophets give prophecy. They foretell what God is going to do. Some parts, that's what they did. But oftentimes it was warning Israel. Israel, you have fallen away from God. Their message was blistering. It was hard. It was hard. It went to the heart. It was hurtful. It was condemning. It was fearful. And he was telling the people of God, you better straighten up. I'm God's messenger to warn you. I'm bringing warning to you that God is going to raise up an enemy or raise up pestilence or bring famine and hardship upon you if you continue in your sin. Look over here. Trouble's coming. Go ahead. Yeah, you got a question.
Yeah, do you think that part of the reason why we don't have revival today is because we as Christians today have become soft to a point where we don't want to hear the hard things anymore? You know, when you listen, I like to listen to some of the older preachers like Lester Roloff and all them. Of course, they were back in the 70s and whatnot. I mean, he preached hard, you know, and he preached. Sometimes he'd say some things that I thought, wow, even today I wouldn't say that, you know. But I feel like as time has gone on, we've gotten softer. We've gotten to a point where we no longer want to hear the truth if it hurts.
Well, you know, the Bible said there'll come a day that we bring teachers who tickle our ears. And that's the day we're in. The churches that are generally exploding with growth, they are not preaching hard on sin. Joel Osteen, for example, one of the biggest preachers in America, told us very clearly, he doesn't preach on sin. Yeah. You know, we're not going to tell people things are wrong. You know, we're going to tell people what they can be.
You don't get as many book sales when you do that.
Well, that's it. You know, it's not popular. And we don't have, I'm worried if we're going to have the time here, but Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12 tells us there are four groups of people that God put in the church, or put here to minister in this church age, that are going to edify the saints and do the things that we need, okay, for the perfecting of the saints, the work of the ministry, and edifying the body of Christ. Who are these four people? He gave some apostles, he gave some prophets, he gave some evangelists, and pastors and teachers. Pastors and teachers are grouped together. There's no comma. It's the same office. A pastor is a teacher. If you're going to be a pastor, you've got to have the gift of being a teacher. The Bible tells us in Titus and also in Timothy. And so who are the apostles? The apostles are the missionaries. We think there are two different types of apostles in the New Testament. There are apostles who were made apostles by Jesus himself. Then there are apostles like Paul and Silas, and there's two others that are mentioned also in the book of Acts later, who were authorized by the church. They were made apostles by the church and sent out by the church, empowered by the church. The first string were empowered by Christ. Now, some people say, well, the apostles today don't exist. They ended with Christ, with the first century. Those, the first string did, and the second string are authorized by the church to do what? Go out and start churches. That's what a missionary does. The apostles are missionaries. By the way, the word missionary comes from the Latin word mitto, which means apostle. We've missed that. You show me the word missionary in the Bible. It's not there. But the word apostle is. That's what Paul was. And I'm looking at the time, and we're going to have to stop. But I hope our listeners will join us back tomorrow and be with us and catch the second part of this as I break down this verse. Because if we don't know who brings revival, then we're in trouble.
You just listened to a pre-recorded program from last year.